The 90 minutes flew by. Brilliant in the first half, City, and I think over the 90 minutes, you've got to say that Liverpool is pretty fortunate to get away with a point or come away with a point.
How do you see the title race now? Because I thought that if City won the game, Didi, that it was all over, but they've still got a chance. Only a point. You never know in football. You know, you've seen Crystal Palace go to the Etihad and get a win. So it's still wide open. I know probably if you look at Man City's games left, they've probably got an easier running than Liverpool.
Yeah, I had a look at the games this morning. I'm not too sure whether City's games are far easier than Liverpool's. What's in City's favour is obviously the bench they've got and the squad they've got. Because if you look at Liverpool's bench yesterday, you know, there was Keita who's been indifferent since he came to the club. And then Diaz came on. Firmino looks off at the moment. You know, he's not really an option, I do think. So obviously off the bench, they've got more options. They can rotate the squad more than Liverpool can. But at the same time, I think if Liverpool were to win the remaining 6 games, I think they're going to win the league, because I don't think that City will. Whether they can, I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's still wide open. And Liverpool will still fancy their chances.
Didi, how did you see Salah? You know, I know the disappointment of getting knocked out of the cup competition with his country. I just worry at times about him. I know he's a fantastic player, but how do you think that disappointment of that could just, be a hangover for him?
Well, he lost the African Cup of Nations a few months ago and didn't really affect him. I think he's still top scorer. And yesterday, you've got to say, City was so dominant in the first half. I think he had 18 or 19 touches in the first half, but I think there was hardly one inside 20 yards of City's goals. So, and then in the second half, obviously, the way he set the equaliser up was brilliant. He had another chance where he comes in on his left foot, which gets deflected, where they should have had a corner, didn't. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think he'll score again. And obviously, the contract situation, I think, I do think they make progress. I think he will sign a new contract, and it's just a blip which happens with centre forwards. And we shouldn't forget that he set the bar very high the last few years. The goals he scored. He's not a centre forward. He plays off the wing. He'll come good again, I think.
I wanted to ask you about something that you wrote about the 2 managers yesterday, Didi, because you were saying that there are 3 current managers who I regard as more successful than Guardiola. I still don't really get the hype that surrounds him. Tell us about the managers that you think are better than him, and why you feel like he's hyped up.
Well, if you look at what Ancelotti has done in the last 20 years, the clubs he won the Champions League with, Mourinho won the Champions League with Inter Milan, and before that with Porto. Pep won it with Barcelona. Luis Enrique went to Barcelona. Frank Rijkaard went to Barcelona. They won the league as well. In Munich, he took over a Champions League winning side, was there for 3 years, didn't get it to the final, got knocked out in the semis 3 times. And 2-3 years after he left, they won it again. And at City now, up until last season, he's not been past the last 8. And if you look at the money, the fortunes City spend, I don't think it's enough. And, my point was that he didn't do what somebody else hasn't done before him. And if you look at Klopp, he took Dortmund to a Champions League final, not been done since. He won the league with Dortmund. And obviously what he's done, he won the league for the first time, I think, after 30 years with Liverpool. He really galvanized that football club. And, if you always manage the best teams, you can't help but win the league. Neil will know that if you've got good players...
I've never had one, Didi.
Yeah.
I've always been at the other end.
Yeah, exactly. You're more likely to win games than to lose games. You can't help but...
I would like to see Pep. I would like to see Pep manage one of my teams, if I'm honest.
Well, here we go. And obviously, we will probably never see that. But that was my point, that everybody's going out about Guardiola, that he's the godfather of managers. If you actually look at his record, what he's done in the last 3 years, he's done great with City to get 100 points in a season. But Klopp, he didn't spend half the money. He probably spent a quarter of the money, and they ran him close with 98 or 99 points 2 years ago. And this season, the same thing. And I don't think you can compare them. I think what Klopp did at Liverpool rates far higher than what Guardiola done at City, because obviously at City they won the league before he came.
It's an interesting debate, really, isn't it?
Well, so Alex Ferguson has got to be number 1, isn't he? What do you think, Neil? Yeah, what he achieved in the Premier League. How far?
Not your boss.
How far is Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola behind?
I did think Wenger changed the whole aspect of football in this country. I thought he was the turning point.
But what he's achieved, though, Sir Alex Ferguson, how many trophies he won. I mean, it's frightening what he won at that era. So
he makes a good point, Didi. I think Didi makes a good point. I didn't realise. I thought, what's he talking about when you started Didi there? But no, you do make a good point.
But could you? I know what you're saying as well, Didi. Obviously, money helps and things like that. But could you argue that the brand of football that Pep Guardiola has brought here, and the way that he's changed that team into playing at football that is just by far some of the most attractive and beautiful and successful football? No.
Well, it's always in the eye. It's always in the eye of the beholder, and obviously what happened since Guardiola took over in Barcelona and Munich, when he started with a tiki-taka, everybody thought they have to play out from the back, which I'm not a big fan of. And I think what we also have to appreciate, the reason why we talk about, or some of your guys at talkSPORT, we're talking about Atletico Madrid playing anti-football, is because everybody thinks now they've got to play the Guardiola way and pass the ball out from the back. There's 100 ways to win football games, and if you haven't got the players to play out from the back, you've got to find a way to get results.
Well, I had a team at Notts County when I started, and my back five couldn't pass water. So what else could we do but knock it long? What else?
Exactly. And end of the day, it's about results. And he's been there 5 years last year. He's never been past the last 8. I think he spent $500 million on centre backs alone. And obviously last year they get to the final, and then you've got to say he lost the final because he didn't play Rodri. So I don't understand how people can say what he's done for football. Yes, they might play a different brand, but then again, if he hadn't had Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and Messi in his team, he probably couldn't have played that way. And he's always managed the best teams. And for for the clubs he's managed and for the teams he's had in the last 8 or 9 years, one Champions League final, I think, is not enough.
It's an interesting argument, Didi, that actually Pep would agree with you himself about, because I've seen him in interviews where people have said this and put this to him, and he's saying, look, I've had the best players in the world, like Didi is saying, and if you gave me a different team, I wouldn't have this kind of success. So you're right.
Would he ever do that, Pep Guardiola?
Where would you
want
him to go?
I'd like to see him. Would you, Neil? To go to like a Burnley or something like that?
All I would say...
No, Sean Dyche's a great manager as well,
send
by
him
the
to
way.
Stoke.
Hey, he's done the right thing, hasn't he? He's moved at the right time to the best clubs, and that's what you've got to do as a manager, really.
But have you got to be in the first place? Have you got to be a world-class manager to be picked by those clubs, to manage those egos as well? Is it more than just about having great players? Is it about knowing how to manage them and how to keep them happy?
Yeah.